Okay, we're live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, of a very special guest, a returning guest. His name is Todd Wood, W-O-O-D, and he has been with me many times in many other episodes. I've been on his show. He's on Killafornia. He's with Walter Bosley on his YouTube channel. He's done a lot of different shows there. And this will be our 18th or 19th episode. I think I've done 5 with him and Walter and 12 with Todd. So this will be our 13th. And this is about a pretty dark case, a very dark one involving ritual murder, occult murder. It's in the vein of a lot of stuff we've done in the past, Arliss Perry, some of these other Creech and these other kind of satanic killers, which is, people just deny it doesn't exist, which is just a total farce. Like we've been mind controlled or something, because the facts don't bear out this truth that these people are inspired. They do ritual stuff. It happens. I don't think it's common, but it definitely happens, and this is going to be a pretty dark case that took place, I think it was in 1980. Arliss Perry was 74. So it's kind of within this kind of serial killing, occult crimes type stuff that was happening.
Yeah.
And this is it, but it had a long arc, and there's a lot of evidence, and there's a lot of good documentaries. There's a good documentary out there I recommend, and it's on his website, which I'll bring up here, but I'm just delighted to have Todd back on the show. So Todd Wood, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad to be back. A long time no talk to.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a while.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot happening in the world, so
lots and lots.
Before we get started, Todd, for people who don't know your background, what you research, what you're looking at, maybe you can talk about like what you're kind of known for, what Killafornia is about, and then lead up into this case of Margaret and Pahl.
Killafornia is essentially a true crime podcast that's on the Walter Bosley channel. Go check out the Walter Bosley channel because you'll like all of his content, even the stuff that I'm on. But we focus primarily on occult ritual crime. Now, the word occult is very interesting. It's usually the connotation is like the supernatural, right? Something connected to the supernatural. But an occultation is when one physical object obscures another physical object. And I am putting forth the belief and of the opinion that this actually, an occultation extends to deception, like a deception covering up truth.
I agree with you.
That is an occultation. Thus, like a politician lying about a cover-up or something like that. That is a cult. That is just as a cult as vampires and ritual murder. Now, this is a very interesting case because a lot of times in these cases, typically the perpetrator of these crimes are younger. And there's typically drugs involved, but not in this one. This one is, I would say, pure ideology. William, would you agree with that?
It sure seems like it. It's a very strange case, and it just Arliss Perry stuff kept floating through my consciousness about this whole thing. Like it's just like almost a carbon copy or something.
So the crime took place on Holy Saturday, which is perhaps one of the holiest days in Catholicism. The Holy Saturday falls between Good Friday and Easter. And I believe in 1980, it was either April 4th or April 5th. You'll have to excuse me, my memory. It's been a while since I've researched this particular case. I just finished the book on it, though. A good book called Sin, Shame, and Secrets. Yeah. Great book. Okay, so Sister Margaret Ann Pahl, who was born, I think, in 1909, she is pretty diehard. She knew she wanted to be a nun. It wasn't like a fallback profession for her. It was, she knew what she wanted and she went and did it. Essentially, she became a nun and joined the Sisters of Mercy, which are like nurses essentially. And she retired in 1970. But from 1970 to 1980, her job, she lived at this hospital in Toledo. I believe it's what's
Sisters of Mercy or something. Mercy?
Yeah, Sisters of Mercy. Yeah,
Mercy Hospital.
The convent was located on the 7th floor, and her job was sort of to prepare the chapel every day. And she did this for 10 years. And this day, she's going and preparing for Holy Saturday. So the crucifix was removed, and during this day, it's a day of mourning and reflection because Jesus was crucified the day before. You cover up sort of the religious iconography, I guess you would say. And during this process, someone took an altar cloth and came up behind her and strangled her while she was in the
sacristy.
Yeah. And this didn't quite kill her, but knocked her out, just about killed her. And then from there, he placed a cross upside down, inverted on her heart, then stabbed around the cross. I believe it was 9 stab wounds. And, and then as if he wasn't enough, that was enough. He wanted blood to put on her forehead to anoint her. And so he had to stab the right side of her body. I think 23 more times, something like that, 22 more times. And he anointed her with an upside down cross, an inverted cross on her forehead. And to add insult to injury, he pulled up her dress and pulled down her underwear. There are some reports that say that she was violated with a crucifix, but that is unverified and was not mentioned in the book. And from the get-go, it seems like police had a suspect, Father Gerald Robinson, who was one of 2 priests who was over the chapel in the hospital. And he was 42 at the time. And police brought him in for questioning, essentially. And what happened was he even violated the code of confession. It's supposed to be confidential, by saying oh, I know who did it. Someone confessed to me that they did it. And then he admitted that he lied about that while he was being questioned by the police. And he said he was just tired and wanted to go home. And all of a sudden, all these bigwigs from the Catholic Church in Toledo come into the office, and they just leave with him. So the crime goes essentially unsolved for 20 years until a letter was written by a young lady who would prefer to be unknown, a Catholic school teacher that we now know was Sister Anne Marie Borges, came forward and basically gave the story about how she was abused by this priest, Chet Warren, and Father Gerald Robinson, and how she was involved with satanic ritual abuse. She was a victim of satanic ritual abuse, and how these guys were doing these satanic rituals in the Catholic Church. Well, this made the detectives in the cold case unit in Toledo made their spider sense go off. And from there, they started reopening the case and re-looking at the evidence and looking into Father Gerald Robinson. And so they decided, to pick him up for questioning, and they search his house because at this point he's living in an apartment close to the police substation. I think relatively close. And what they find is a shoebox full of pictures of corpses in their casket, and they find a book titled The Occult, in which the chapter on black masses and human sacrifice is underlined, and there's citations and notes inside the book. Now, this is interesting. The thing I forgot to mention is before he stabbed the inverted cross on her, he placed the altar cloth on top of her. That's very important. I didn't mean to leave that out. So he placed the altar cloth on top of her, then placed the inverted cross on top of her heart, and then stabbed around that. Which means she herself, what in the occult sense, was made the altar in this particular case, in this black mass, as it were.
Super satanic stuff. Like that's what happens to women in like LeVay's rituals and stuff like that, is the woman becomes like the altar, like it's the ultimate blasphemy.
Yeah, and that's fascinating in my opinion, that they would do that, because that is so evil. Just to think like that. I don't know how you'd even do that. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old fashioned. I don't know. But essentially they arrested this Gerald Robinson. Now other women came forward. Another woman named Teresa Baumrice came forward and basically said that, and basically confirmed what Anne Marie Borges has said, that Father Gerald Robinson and Chet Warren and this other priest, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, were involved in satanic rituals. And now the interesting thing is, I think it was her, or is perhaps a third woman, who came back and said that their group was called the Sons of Sam. And by Sons of Sam, I mean the Sons of Sisters of Assumed Mary. Now, another really interesting part of this is apparently, according to Sister Anne Marie Borges, that this cult would meet in a farmhouse in the countryside close to Toledo. I guess maybe right outside Toledo. And she was forced to kill a 3-year-old in a human sacrifice when she was, I don't know, like 8 or 9 or something. And she was violated and abused in the worst way. And then she was shown killed children on meat hooks in a farmhouse in that same area. So not only are we talking about a satanic cult operating within the Catholic Church, but we're also talking about a cover-up, because most of those police officers were Catholic, and they covered it up for the Catholic Church.
Right. So the Catholic Church was actually actively involved in the cover-up, right?
Yes.
Isn't that the element of it? Is like, the Monsignor is deliberately trying to get Robinson away from the police, right?
Right. It's just like the pedophile scandal. Instead of excommunicating them, they just send them to a new location, a new church.
And it was a different mentality. The priest is like above all, like in the Catholic Church.
Above reproach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they protect themselves. So I think that thing, I don't know if people can see this or you can see this, Todd. This is what they called the letter opener. It looks like a ritual dagger. Like they describe this. That doesn't look like a normal letter opener to me. That looks like a ritual implement from like Damien the Omen.
Right.
Like, whoa.
He bought that at the Washington Monument gift shop.
Wow. It's just crazy. Like maybe it functions as a letter opener, but that is one of the more curious letter openers that I've ever seen. I think it's 9 inches long too. So he had all his numerology done right. 9 stab wounds, 9-inch, thing. This is a really good documentary about it. It's on I'll put a link to this is
it the Netflix one?
No. Is there a Netflix one? I didn't know there was a Netflix one.
Yeah, there's a Netflix one, and then I think there's one that's called her name was Sister Margaret or something.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. This is from just March 2026, so it's fairly recent.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the show notes. People can check it out.
Okay, it's cool. But I mean, you have to wonder, like with the claims of like Father Malachi Martin talking about a Luciferian ritual in the Vatican after Pope John Paul II was coronated. At the same time that this Luciferian ritual was going on, another one was happening simultaneously in a church in South Carolina, which was confirmed via that particular church's archives, according to the book In the Shadow of the Vatican.
Was it Hostage to the Devil or the Windswept House or something like that?
Windswept House, the first chapter is where he's talking about the ritual. Gotcha. Yeah, the enthronement of the prince in the citadel of the enemy.
Wow.
Yeah. So in my opinion, this case kind of verifies in a way what Father Malachi Martin was talking about. You know?
I do. Yeah, no, I mean, it's it. It's so strange. There's so many elements that this guy was walking around for 25 years after committing this crime.
Right. It kind of makes you wonder how many more there are.
Sure does. It sure does. And it reminds me of Rex Huerman's uncle, who there was a civil case against him for SRA, a Protestant. I believe he was a Lutheran, but there was it was almost like a True Detective of North New York, because around this time, this woman said she was abused. There were like women disappearing and being abused, like in cars and shot, and like really dark pictures and things. Never solved.
What was it? The uncle that worked for the space program worked for NASA, or was it actually the grandfather?
I think that either the father or the grandfather. I think the father was a cop.
Okay.
So I think it was the another of his uncles. I don't know. I have to double check.
Yeah. Huh. That's really interesting. I don't know very much about that particular case.
I did a show on it. I can't remember. He had the same name. It wasn't Rex Huerman. It was something Huerman. It was father, but it was a civil case. So it was something that was dredged up. Mm-hmm. And then he was old and, I don't remember. And he seemed to, he avoided criminal prosecution, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
The one thing that I was talking to you about in the pre-show was father. I think it's either Father Kunz or something like that.
Something like that.
Like something where that's the one in
his throat was slit.
Yeah,
in front of the Archangel Michael statue. Yeah. I don't know very much about that case. I know my friend Melissa Harris just did a show on her channel, Clusterfuck 101. Guys, check out that channel if you like the kind of stuff William and I are discussing. But was there any ritualistic sort of signs of ritualism during in that crime scene? Because I really don't know.
In what the Kunz one?
Yeah.
No, I think the guy was like Robinson, where he had been accused of other occult stuff. So if I remember, I have to double check and go back. My memory's a bit foggy about that one. But these are things that happen in the Catholic Church,
Yeah. And
I've talked about the Ninth Circle because of Epstein, and that's one about human ritual sacrifice in the Catholic Church in the old kind of European churches. And
what is the ninth? For those who don't know, what is the Ninth Circle?
It's just a secret society within the Catholic Church, and there's been other podcasts and people have researched. It involves like girls who've disappeared in Italy, and allegations of human sacrifice. Satanic human sacrifice.
Is this connected to the Monster of Florence?
Well, that's a much larger thing. Possibly. The Monster of Florence is ritual. It's almost exactly like the Son of Sam murders.
Yeah.
People out at night in their car, and then all of a sudden they get, killed, but there's two of them. So is it one guy committing these crimes, or it's like Zodiac?
Right.
Like, how can one person be doing this? And it was a great mystery, and then there's like there's occultism everywhere, but there's like a history of occultism in Italy, ancient witchcraft and occultism that's underneath the surface.
Interestingly enough, have you ever heard of the Axeman of New Orleans?
No, but I'm interested. I mean,
So that was an interesting case. It isn't so ritualistic, but it's very similar to the Jack the Ripper and the Zodiac crimes in the sense that these crimes. First of all, let me just say this: Louisiana was the first, or New Orleans was the first, or I'm sorry, Louisiana was the first state in the country to have an Italian crime family, established in 1870. So these series of attacks happened from, I don't know, 1908, 1909, all the way up to 1919. But the ones, and a lot of them involved a hatchet or axe, or what one would call a weapon of opportunity found at the crime scene at the victim's home. A lot of time, which is an axe, because everybody essentially owned an axe. And between 1918 and 1919, there's a series of murders attributed to what police and the press would call the Axeman of New Orleans. And like Jack the Ripper and before him and the Zodiac after him, he wrote a note to the press claiming he was a demon from hell. And essentially, like he said, he knows he's a killer, but he could be so much worse. But he's willing to pass over the city on this date if everybody decides to like jazz it out, which means there has to be a jazz band at every club. Everybody's in their house with a jazz record playing. There has to be jazz music, and he literally got the whole city to play jazz music on this one night. Yeah, it's a pretty wild case. There's a lot of evidence that it was a mafia crime, a Black Hand crime, but the Black Hand is associated with some other occult ritual crimes, like the Evangelina murder. I don't know, that's unsolved, like the Axeman crime. So who knows if they actually did it? But it's a very interesting case because the theory is that there's they have their main suspect, like in the Zodiac you have the Arthur Leigh Allen, but in the Axeman of New Orleans you have this guy named Frank Doc Mumphrey, who is essentially a mob hitman. Like he's the lead suspect in that particular case, but there's also the theory that it was multiple people. So it's kind of interesting how like time kind of repeats itself like that.
Sure does. This is the guy you mentioned at the intro. This is David Yonke. Sins, Shame, and Secrets, the Murder of a Nun, the Conviction of a Priest.
Yeah.
The cover up in the Catholic Church. There's a lot of great pictures in this.
Yeah, great
documentary.
book.
Yeah, great book.
Mm-hmm.
There's Robinson. That's what he looked like when he was arrested.
Now, Robinson, interestingly enough, during his trial, before the trial, he was laughing and having a good time with his friends and stuff like that. But as soon as the proceedings started, his whole demeanor would change. So, I mean, that tells you something, that this dude was completely guilty.
Yeah, this is, you mentioned that thing, this note. She said, at the age of 5, a ceremony was performed at this Calvary cemetery. It's put into a coffin-like pine box, and cockroaches were released into the box. I was in the box for several minutes and thought I was going crazy. They told me the bugs marked me for Satan. That's trauma-based mind control.
She was made to eat a human eyeball, and she was told because she's made to eat a human eyeball for the reasons to basically tell her that they would always be watching her. The circle of darkness will always be watching her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know that at the entryway to Jeffrey Epstein's mansion, he put in a series of eyeballs?
Really?
Yeah. Like individual eyeballs, not like two eyes.
Yeah.
But just eyeballs. No pictures of it exist.
Uh-huh.
He also made, like, because I've been reading a lot of Epstein really recently. But now that you say that, it rings a bell with all these eyeball rings and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
This concept within the occult. Have you ever found a reference of why they like eyeballs in the occult? Have you ever found anything?
I have. Eyes are the windows to the soul, perhaps.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's like a citable reference, really, because you see it all the time, like in Clockwork Orange and the rings that Savile wore, the one eyeball.
There was a serial killer in Texas that was killing prostitutes and removing their eyes.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't remember his name off the top of my head. The eyeball collector.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And like you were saying, there's definitely a parallel to the Arliss Perry murder that happened in 1974 in the sense that this also happened in a church. Right? But I think that the church in Stanford, wasn't that a non-denominational church, or was that a Catholic church?
No, it's definitely non-denominational.
That's interesting.
It's just the church, and it was presided over by different people of different Christian sects. So they did have Catholic priests there, and my understanding is like non-aligned and also ex and like Protestant. So it was kind of like, different. They'd have different ceremonies at different times. I think it's like that. There's a church in DC that was like that. I think it's like the National Cathedral is like that. It's not aligned.
That's so the one that has like the Darth Vader statue. Yeah.
And the one where like George Bush Sr.'s in there talking about, the lone nut who killed, John F. Kennedy and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And they all go in there, all these other, they probably don't feel oppressed or something in there or something like that. But for people who aren't Christian, there are churches like that. I think there's others where you have to be a Catholic or an Orthodox or a Protestant or whatever sect you are to participate.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. I mean, it's all covered up. This is a part of the cover up. It's part of the pedo cover up too. I would say.
Most definitely. I mean, Chet Warren, one of the people involved, that was a big scandal that broke in 1996.
And it's associated with this, right? So this murder is 1980, and then it's 1996. And this woman, I was reading through this woman who brought a civil suit in 2011, but they didn't have those kind of like statute of limitations tolling legislation out there where if you remembered you abused, you could bring it back. So this one who tried to sue the church in Robinson had her case thrown out of court unjustly, because these people are traumatized. Like if they're putting you in a freaking coffin and dumping bugs on you, like
not only that, she was made to murder a child. Like what happened was she was given a machete, and then one of the priests grabbed her arm and nicked her carotid artery.
Wow,
crazy. The kids do, and then they made her clean it up. And not only that, they killed her dog, like in front of her. Like it was.
Wow, it's dark. Yeah. Was that letter and everything in the book? Because I didn't get that far into it.
Yes.
So it is. I got to read through it then.
Yeah.
Shoot. Somebody in the chat, it's Bart. I think Dr. Menini, the Italian prosecutor of the American Meredith Kircher case, that's Amanda Knox, did establish that an occult-connected MD, a doctor named Narducci, was likely the monster of Florence.
Ah, interesting. Well, wasn't there like multiple suspects? Like that there was a possibility that there was
a group from Sardinia. The book Monsters of Florence is about a group that they think was involved.
Yeah.
And of course it was like Son of Sam. They busted one guy, and then he's it, and then everybody else walks free, right?
Exactly.
Just like Epstein, actually. Epstein is the lone pedo. It's just him.
Yeah.
Let's just move forward, guys. Come on. You still talking about Jeff? And then it's like, the thing is, it's like all of them, man.
Yeah.
Just like Epstein. Oh, it's so freaking disturbing.
Right.
But that's a whole nother case. Magnini, like when he was originally looking at the Amanda Knox case, he had an occult kind of witchcraft approach.
Yeah.
He really thought for real. And it was all suppressed. It's suppressed by the Western media because they're like these stories, they are just not talked about because it's not in their worldview.
Right.
Or they're Satanists.
The interesting thing is it's like the Satanic Panic. There's a lot of false cases and a lot of disinformation involved with the Satanic Panic, but that doesn't mean that satanic crime didn't happen. Just look at the Chris Milner case from Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, 1990 in Panhandle, Texas. That kid basically went on a killing spree. At least he tried to, killing one kid in like drawing a pentagram on the ground, making the kid stand in it, and then shooting him in the head, and then trying to kill two other people, but kind of failing, wounding them, but ultimately failing. The kid, Chris Milner, makes a videotape directed at his parents, telling them that they did nothing wrong. He's just a Satanist who wants to kill people. Come to find out, he's like completely obsessed with H.P. Lovecraft's Necronomicon. Yeah, and he's in prison to this day. I mean, they won't ever let this guy out because this guy, there was no drugs. He was into Satan. But he was 19. So another interesting one is El Satanico in Colombia. That's a fascinating case.
I know that case. Yeah, I've read about that one.
Tommaso Serra. Yeah. Very much occult ritual crimes. He was carving Z's into his victims' foreheads. He carved pentagrams on one lady's back and then carved a pentagram on one of his victims' cheeks. He would cut off the middle and ring finger to make essentially like the devil horns, which is also known as the sign of Vor, which is connected to H.P. Lovecraft through this other author named Lynn Carter. The Vor are incorporated into the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I mean, it goes on and on. It's not just an American or a Western thing. It's a global phenomenon. It really is. Satanic crime really is.
No question. It's no question about it. And it's just the corruption of the country and U.S. and the media that they don't talk about it. They don't want to expose it because I think they're probably all in on it. I mean, I think we've gone from a Christian country to an occult country. It happened within one generation, it seems.
And even if you have a good like senator or congressman out there, you like the paranoia that you're getting disinformation, right? They say so-and-so is a satanic. Now they'll take a regular crime and then some guy will come up to you in Congress and they'll say, hey, this crime here was satanic, and they'll lie about it. And so when the senator or the congressman or whoever goes out and talks about it, and then it turns out there was no Satanism involved, it turns out to be a disinformation campaign. It discredits all of us, every single researcher out there who wants to get to the truth of these things. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, it's still very much an occult thing because that senator or that person giving that senator false information was lying to cover up some truth or some true motive, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Bart follows up. He exhumed Narducci's grave. Menini did. The body was not Narducci's, and Masonic tokens were found in the coffin. The murder stopped with Narducci's drowning. I would put drowning in quotes. Narducci was like an SFK victim. He was found in water, but they just go, oh, he drowned, Very convenient.
Yeah. Well, I know that there's a lot of talk about the Freemasons being involved in one way or another in the Monster of Florence case.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. But there are weird dates, weird times. It's late at night. It always like follows the same pattern of Son of Sam. Yeah. 2 lovers, man and a woman, late at night, lonely road, ultra violence.
Yeah.
It's just like, and there was one, I think that if I remember, I'd have to reread the book, but like one person ran one way and another person ran the other way, and they were both caught. Like they had proof that they ran apart from each other. So how did one person do the crime?
Right.
It's just no way.
Interestingly enough, that the occult ritual crime of Celine Navarro was perpetrated by a group there aren't the Freemasons, but they are sort of like the Filipino version of the Freemasons that were inspired by the Freemasons. And she was buried alive and given the last rites in a very occult ritual way in November of 1932.
Wow.
Yeah.
By the way, this case of Robinson, like it went through the appeals process. So it went to the Ohio Supreme Court and affirmed, and then to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right.
Who denied certiorari. So
right. Well, I mean, if we're right here, if there's more members of this satanic cult operating in the shadows of the Catholic Church, then Robinson, although he is guilty, can still be a fall guy. So they'll take heat off the rest of the Satanists.
Right. And in the intro, in the first chapter of this book that you mentioned, with this guy, whatever his name, Colby or whatever, he his reenactment of the crime involved the crucifix in a woman's body parts and chalice, blood in a chalice, like collecting of blood.
Okay, yeah. So there it is. The crucifix used to as a sort of template to stab around. He took that and then he inserted it into his victim. Yeah. Okay. I must have missed that part.
That's the whole thing about all this pirates. It's the same thing. So Andy, he left the clothes, like they left her underwear down, so that like it was like an ultimate humiliation and sacrilege.
Yeah,
like, that's what they were doing. Like,
so
it's like a huge, like, total inversion, black mass type thing. Like, they checked all the boxes, or whoever did it checked the boxes. I don't believe Robinson was alone. In my opinion, this is a multiple crime to me.
Yeah. I there was only two priests there, and the other one has a pretty solid alibi. He was at breakfast in the cafeteria.
Is it Swiatek or Swiateski or something?
Yeah, he was in. They tried to blame him because he was an ex-alcoholic, and or at least Robinson did. But he has a pretty airtight alibi. He was with a bunch of other nuns in the cafeteria.
And this was all taking place in the so-called Satanic Panic era, which the theme is kind of like keeps revolving. Like even under Epstein, it's like a moral panic. So you see the same kind of concept. Like why you guys are rationally being afraid, It's like,
Well, I mean, and it's the craziest thing is the most prominent satanic crime was perpetrated by a priest against a nun. During the Satanic Panic, like you said.
Right. Like it's crazy.
I mean, and you can't blame drugs for this, because the according to the book, Father Robinson was on a very low dosage of Valium, which is a mood stabilizer, right?
Right.
So it's not like he was manic or anything. And two, he's not a young man. He's not a teenager like so many of these crimes are committed by teenagers and very young adults. This guy's middle age. He's 42 years old at this point.
Right. One of the interesting things that ties this to the West Memphis 3 is Dale Griffiths was involved in analyzing this case. 1980, he was in court in 1994 for the West Memphis 3.
Really?
I talked to that guy. Yeah, I interviewed way back. I think the interview's gone. Like, because once I published the book on the West Memphis 3 abomination, he reached out to me, and I because he was in the Nexus. I'm pretty sure Russ Dizdar was from Ohio too, and so was Griffiths, and they knew each other.
I see.
And Griffiths has passed away, but they always roll him out and mock him and like make fun of him. But at that time, he knew a lot, man. He had his own library of occult type stuff.
Yeah, he was the occult expert on the case, right?
Correct.
Yeah, So it was him. He said placing the altar cloth that Father Margaret and Pahl was strangled with on top of her, that makes her the altar.
Right.
Yeah. That's that's crazy. Let me ask you something about West Memphis 3. like it's so strange to me that people sort of dismiss that as satanic panic nonsense. Like, I mean, the evidence is there. Is there a reason why they're just so, on that case in particular, so just dead set on dismissing it?
Yeah, I think that it's part of the cover-up. It's part of the mind control. It's part of the deception.
Yeah.
And most of those people, I mean, my opinion, like satanic panic, like morphed into just like, okay, somebody else said it, so I believe it. But the core people who like talk about panic or panic hands and all this nonsense are Satanists. Because they don't panic. They're not panicking when they're doing it. It's always a response to people with kind of like a Christian or moral worldview. Like, hey, this is bad. Like, you shouldn't sacrifice kids and slit people's throats.
Right.
But if people do that on the thing, like, oh, this is just normal. This is what we do. Don't panic. So I think that's applied to so many cases where there's occult crimes. And
right.
When I read through the West Memphis 3 for my own, the benefit is that you can actually go through the court records. They're all available. The thing is redolent with like occultism. Crowley pops up, the dates, admissions from Eccles, who changed his name from Michael to Damien. I mean, they had evil tattoo. They literally had tattoos on their knuckles that wrote out evil. Like they could put 666 on their tennis shoes. Like these guys were heavily involved in the occult. They were doing all kinds of sacrifices and dog murders and all kinds of stuff. They would leave pig heads on people's porches.
Right.
Like, I mean, come on. These are when you look at the totality, some of it didn't make it into court.
Yeah.
But when you look at the totality of the police report, it's just like, it's not even arguable. You're making a clown of yourself to deny all that.
Right. Well, the interesting thing, there's a connection there to the Chris Milner case, because Chris Milner changed his name to Damien.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. A fan of the Omen.
Yeah, here he is. Yeah. Griffiths had been a consultant to the Lucas County Sheriff's Department in the 1985 Satanic digs outside of Toledo, and was one of the first policemen in the nation to pursue an academic study of cults, earning a master's degree and writing doctoral dissertation on mind controlling groups.
Yeah.
I mean, they complained. I guess they complained about the legitimacy of his academic credentials or something. Like it was some kind of like.
Oh, it wasn't the school he went to wasn't accredited. That's what
I think it wasn't accredited. Something like
that.
But still, he was doing the work. I know he was.
It doesn't matter if it's accredited or not. If the information's there and you learn it, then it,
Exactly.
You can have the same math book at two schools, and one being accredited and one being unaccredited. If two people read the same book, it's the same information, right? So, and the interesting thing is about that West Memphis 3 case is like 2 years later, the Elise Pahl case happens in California.
Right.
And it's like the press doesn't even try to deny that one at all. Yeah.
They literally found out after interviewing those three guys, they sacrificed her so that their metal band would be successful.
I mean, it's in their journals.
Yeah, like that was the whole point.
Right.
It's just like what's his name? Daniel Hussein, the lottery killer. He was going to sacrifice these women and get away with it so he could win the lottery. That's what he thought.
Right. I heard that there's like an Order of the Nine Angles angle to that crime. Like he was radicalized.
To Daniel?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He was on that bold website. It was Become a Living God. And it's run by this guy who was a rug cleaner. I can't remember his. I was on a show with him 15 years ago. You wouldn't even believe it. But his name is his thing is E.A. Coetting. Mm-hmm. And he runs this Become a Living God like news grid. They shut it down and kicked it off. And there's all kinds of like weird reverse baptism stuff that looks like smiley face killings type things in there. But he was on there, Daniel Hussein. It's Danyal. Mm-hmm. And he got this information. According to Coetting, there's like this main god whose name is it's not Mephisto. I can't even remember it.
Baphomet.
No, but there's like some chief god, and Daniel did a blood, like he wrote an oath and put his fingerprints on there, so like almost like a blood thing to this primary god of co-wedding. But it turns out that co-wedding was involved, like what you find out behind the 09A is like there's the head guy, right, Maya? But other people are contributing to the corpus. And co-wedding, apparently, according to my understanding, co-wedding was adding to the 09A corpus through the Temple of Blood, which is in South or North Carolina.
So that's really interesting because that reminds me of the Tommy Sullivan case. Do you know about the Tommy Sullivan case from 1988?
No, what's that one about?
That they just made a documentary about it, relatively recently. The director Eli Roth made it, and I think it's like this township in I want to say Jackson Township, but I don't think that's right. Jefferson Township in New Jersey, and this young man, Tommy Sullivan. Now he's at this Catholic school, and he's given this assignment where all the kids had to look into different religions, and he was assigned Satanism. Well, he got so into Satanism in a very short amount of time that he became a Satanist, and he ends up killing his mother.
Ugh.
Yeah, and then he goes and he kills himself, and which is a mystery to police to this day because he slit his throat. He nearly decapitated himself with a Boy Scout knife. And his suicide note is a contract to Satan, just like Daniel Hussein.
Okay, now I got to find out who Daniel Hussein was. It was, I can't remember this demon god or whatever. Interesting thing is that guess who? What infamous name pops up in this book again?
Who?
Kenneth Lanning.
Oh, okay. Will you remind everybody who Kenneth Lanning is?
Kenneth Lanning is the FBI agent who kind of came out and disproved or discredited the whole satanic, motivation for crime, and that they were all pedophile crimes, and there was no ideological motivation.
Right.
And he's still in the game right now. It's unbelievable. There is a full article by Lanning in the Epstein files. It's like one EFTA number. It's one of his articles.
Yeah.
So either Epstein was collecting it or somebody around the Epstein network, somebody was into Lanning and that other false memory syndrome foundation woman, whatever her name is.
Here's the thing.
See her face.
Theistic Satanism, Anton LaVey, atheistic Satanism, it doesn't matter. The definition of satanic is to oppose or to object. So the mere act of pedophilia or murder by itself is satanic. It's the very definition of satanic. It opposes our moral Christian worldviews on things.
The pact with demon was Lucifuge Rofocale.
Oh.
And he was in the Grand Grimoire. And you're supposed to murder 6 women every 6 months in return for financial reward, including winning a lottery jackpot.
I believe that that's interesting. The Grand Grimoire, that's Sullivan. Is that like the lesser keys of like one of the Sullivan King Solomon grimoires, right? Or I'm probably wrong on that. But that's very similar to like the grimoire that Macario Timon was really into when he was murdered in 1926. But that's an interesting case because that's the case of the Satanist being murdered, perhaps by another Satanist. But the crime is left unsolved. The Grand Grimoire that's the one Macario was reading. Yeah,
it's the Red Dragon, Le Dragon Rouge.
Yeah.
That's the old one. That's where they think they got. That's where Jimmy Page got the symbol for Zoso is from the Grand Grimoire.
I see.
That's it. Hussein was a viewer of videos by American self-styled occultist Matthew Lawrence. This is from Wikipedia. Also known as E.A. Coetting of Apple Valley, Utah. About 30-minute drive to Kanab, Utah. Interesting.
Yeah.
You could tell. The girl who does all the research on animal best friends.
Dana?
Dana, thank you. Lawrence was a member of the U.S. branch of the Order of Nine Angles and had been convicted of 6 third-degree felonies for possession of drugs and a restricted firearm in 2014. Hussein was active on Lawrence's Satanic-themed internet forum, Become a Living God, on which Hussein alleged he was a psychic vampire. This is very ONA. And asked for advice about demonic pacts. Hussein was active on that forum for 2 years and last logged in hours before his arrest. Lawrence advised that pacts should be entered to Lucifuge, signed in blood, brought to Lucifuge with only candlelight, and organized for wealth. Hussein followed these instructions. 10 days after the murders, Hussein spent £162 on lottery tickets, but nothing won. Lawrence's videos on YouTube were subsequently removed, and his accounts on Facebook and Instagram were banned for promoting violence. He promotes more than violence, guys. He promotes exactly what Hussein tried to do, which is to kill somebody and get away with it. That was part of his pact. And that's kind of like the shallow, kind of superficial analysis that's always on Wikipedia. Is they always get like the details wrong, because that pact that he had his blood oath with said, I'm going to kill them and I'm going to get away with it, which is ONA doctrine. It's like doctrinaire stuff.
Well, I mean, but then he said, like, to get power from the devil, the belief system, like the belief is it requires a sacrifice. You know, a sacrifice is required. You know,
that's the whole thing about this woman, like Pahl, like this Margaret Pahl is like the whole like that ritualistic thing in sequence time, dude. Do this, then do this, then do this, then do this.
I mean, it happened on Holy Saturday.
Right in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Sick. Those people, that guy was in the Catholic Church. Like, imagine that guy.
How many more are there? So I looked it up. There's about 500,000 Catholic priests in 1980, roughly. So with numbers like that, you have to think that there's a lot more. Just by like statistical analysis, there has to be a lot more. Yeah, in the shadows, you know. Elizabeth Loftus is the other person that I was trying to remember, because the false memory stuff is brought up in this book. Like, it's about whether her memories of satanic ritual abuse are real or not. And Loftus is a total denier and showed up at the Maxwell case. Yeah. And in the Epstein files, like, she's literally in there for probably an association of Maxwell. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure Loftus sounds like a government shill. You know, they hire disruptors like that.
No question.
Yeah.
So, see, I didn't get this far into the book, but like, there's really dark stuff. She went to some farmhouse she called the House of Blood.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. And I mean, it was pretty
She was
bad.
11.
Yeah, and Father Gerald Robinson was really into like sadomasochistic sex. Like Father Chet Warren turned his apartment into a brothel, essentially. He was pimped her out.
I cannot believe this ties into Epstein. A bowl containing an eyeball was brought in. It looked like a human eye. One of the leaders said, "Take it, eat it, chew it, and swallow it." He said the eyeball would always be with me, and that I would always be a part of them. The group would always be watching me, Sister Mary said with a shiver. And she was stripped naked, and the 3-year-old girl was brought in.
Yeah, and she was made to kill that 3-year-old girl.
According to the story, yeah.
Yeah, according to the story, yeah.
But another House of Blood memory, jeez.
Right. I mean, Anne Marie Borges she's working to try and stop human trafficking now.
Wow. And so this guy, Chet Warren, he was barred from the ministry in 1993, but kept going and kept wearing his clerical collar, ignoring the ban. So he was like one of those people who get kicked out of the Catholic Church, like David Ferry.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so dark.
Yeah. And I for one, believe Anne Marie Borges.
The survivor stories rhyme. They have a ring of truth to them. And why would they come forward and lie? I mean, I think some people have.
I mean, that's the thing. She has no reason to lie.
Right.
I don't think it was the one that brought the case forward, that wasn't Anne Marie Borges. That was Teresa Baumrice, the one that was knocked down by the court because of the
Bombrys, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the victims, Barbara Blaine, went on to found SNAP, the survivors network of those abused by priests, which now has more than 19,000 members and 60 chapters around the world.
Yeah. She was abused by Chet Warren.
See, so that's the whole network thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's dark.
Yeah.
And this is just like, dark. I bet the killing of Margaret Pahl was just like the apex of a whole series of like other crimes, you know.
Well, I mean, that priest in 1998, I mean, who Father Malachi Martin said that was a satanic crime. We need to get to those police files to know exactly what the coroner is leaving out of those reports and are what we're not seeing here. Where's the ritualism in that particular case?
Wow. This case is super dark. This is a good book. Sin, Shame, and Secrets.
Yeah, for sure. Buy that book, guys. Buy that book.
The True Story of the Murder of a Nun, the Conviction of a Priest, and the Cover-Up in the Catholic Church by Yonke. Y-O-N-K-E is his name.
And then next time some smart ass wants to say there is no satanic crimes, you just point right at the murder of Margaret Ann Pahl.
Yeah. Or Arliss Perry. I mean, there's so many. Yeah. They've just been, I mean, one of the great things about your work is you just see all these ties. Like there's so many satanic motivated crimes that are totally covered up by the media. The media is a joke in this country. Mass corporate media. They're all probably Satanists, man.
Well, I believe that they are. They're at least atheist.
Yeah.
I mean, they really don't have good intention. Their intention, they worship themselves, and their intention is to make their bank accounts bigger.
Yeah, they're really like total materialists. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything is put through that lens of, is there money in it for me? You know. Mm-hmm. Here's a cover of the book, guys. Sin, Shame, and Secrets, and then it has the letter opener right there in his hands, right? That's not the real one, but I think that's what they're trying to impart. Right. Todd, we are at the 60-minute mark. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything I missed?
Yeah, guys, if you're interested in the stuff I talk about, come check us out at the Walter Bosley channel. The show is Killafornia. We just posted a new episode. Right now, we're doing a deep dive on the first season of True Detective. We're having a lot of fun with it, and come and have fun with us. It's at the Walter Bosley channel on YouTube.
Is it just you and Walter on that show?
No, Dana's joining us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to listen in on that. I just did a show on that titled "Who is the True Detective?" It's really just about, it's about Rustin Cole. It's about him because he's really the true detective. He is the true detective.
You know what? Patrick from Program to Kill wants to join us for an episode of our deep dive. We should have you on to join us as well.
Anytime. Let me know.
Okay.
I have a lot to add. I've done a lot of work on that. I know a lot about Legati and the OTO and
well,
the hidden stuff on there. I know a lot about the what it was based on, which is the Hosanna church crime, which is a satanic thing. I've done multiple shows on that.
Well,
I have all the information.
We're gonna do episode 3 next month, so maybe that. And I kind of have the idea in my head of like having a bunch of people on for the season finale episode. I think was that episode 10 of True Detective, and like have a big panel discussion. I thought that would be really fun.
I thought the first season was 8 episodes.
Well, episode 8. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'd be
some of those episodes. I tell you what, I've watched the show from beginning to end multiple times, and I swear, some of those episodes, the pacing and everything, it feels like one episode. It feels like multiple episodes in one episode. It messes me up. Like. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it doesn't, because there's all these time jumps and stuff like that. It just kind of messes me up completely.
The original, you have to watch out too, because they've edited the originals. So what they're putting out on some of these streaming services does not have a lot of the psychedelic stuff that they had in the original thing, where Rustin Cole is seeing swirls in the air and stuff.
Yeah.
And the ending is they've edited out the ending to make it actually it's kind of a positive ending. He resolves himself at the end, and they've edited it out to kind of make a demoralized ending, which is really telling. Like they really, I mean, it just shows how evil these people are.
Like I've been saying, like I think what we need to do is go through those Epstein files and look up and see if any of those Warner Brother executives are in the Epstein files.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Did you ever tell you? I don't think you know the story, but I did. Like back in the day, I watched this movie, Enchanted.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was after the Podesta files came out, which became known as Pizzagate, but it's really about the Podesta emails.
Yeah.
And there was this sequence in this movie, Enchanted, that had all of the code words from the Podesta emails. It was called, had all the stuff, the handkerchiefs, the kid, the pizza, the ovens, the Bale oven, and all that stuff. It was all symbolically in there by this guy, Josephson, who turns out
hey William,
he's really good friends with Epstein, and there's pictures of him with Epstein on sets and stuff like that.
Whoa, William, did you just hear what just happened?
No,
your audio went crazy there for a second, right when you were talking about that.
There's a ghost in the machine. It's definitely
it's going crazy.
It's
again.
Reducing my audio. Something outside of my control is tampering with my audio.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Yeah. Like I'm watching it go down by itself. Like it's some kind of like automatic thing that I don't have control over. I think it's through my browser. I got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So people check out Todd, Killafornia, and our other episodes. Like I said, this is our like 18th or 19th episode with Walter. And this was the discussion about the ritual occult killing of Margaret and Pahl. There's a lot of information. And a good place to find it in the context is this book, Sin, Shame, and Secrets. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Right.
Appreciate it. All right, we're done. Yeah, no, it's something